There is a talking head radio thug in Iowa named Jan Mickelson. I guess our listeners in Iowa know about this guy. He fancies himself a kingmaker in the state of Iowa. He unveiled an immigration plan the other day on his toy radio program that would make undocumented immigrants who don't leave the country after an allotted time, in his words, property of the state. In other words, they can become slaves. And then when a caller criticized his plan, Mickelson said, "What's wrong with slavery?"
Now, here's what would work. And I was asked by an immigration open borders activist a couple of weeks ago how I would get all of the illegals here in the state of Iowa to leave. So you're going to call the police every time you find an illegal, or you're going to round them up and put them in detention centers? I said, no, you don't have to do any of that stuff. Well, you're going to invite them to leave the country and leave Iowa? I said, well, sort of. Well, how are you going to do it, Mickelson? You think you're so smart? How would you get thousands of illegals to leave Iowa? Well, I said, well, if I wanted to do that, I'd just put up some signs. Well, what would the sign say? I said, well, I'd put them on the end of the highway on western part of the interstate system, and I'd put them on the eastern side of the state, right there in the interstate system, and in the north on the Minnesota border, and on the south Kansas and Missouri border. And I would just say this: as of this date, whenever we decide to do this, as of this date, this is a totally arbitrary number, 30 to 60 days from now, anyone who is in the state of Iowa that is not here legally and cannot demonstrate their legal status to the satisfaction of the local and state authorities here in the state of Iowa become property of the state of Iowa. So if you are here without our permission, and we've given you 2 months to leave, and you're still here, and we find that you're still here after we've given you the deadline to leave, then you become the property of the state of Iowa. And we have a job for you, and we start using compelled labor. The people who are here illegally would therefore be owned by the state and become an asset of the state rather than a liability, and we start inventing jobs for them to do. Well, how would you apply that logic to what Donald Trump is trying to do, to get Mexico pay for the border and for the wall? Same way. We say, hey, we're not going to make Mexico pay for the wall. We're going to invite, though, illegal Mexicans and illegal aliens to build it. If you have come across the border illegally, we give them another 60-day guideline. You need to go home and leave this jurisdiction. And if you don't, you become property of the United States. And guess what? You will be building a wall. We will compel your labor. You would belong to these United States. You show up without an invitation, you get to be an asset. You get to be a construction worker. Cool.
How does Iowa produce? How does the Midwest produce these kind of swine? I mean, come on. On the August 17th edition of his show, that was what, Monday? Mickelson announced he had a plan to drive undocumented immigrants out of Iowa that involved making those who don't leave property of the state, who are then forced into compelled labor, slavery. And then this rancid son of a bitch says, what's wrong with slavery? Where do these people come from? What kind of demon vomits these people up on the stage, huh? Good God. We'll be right back.